Back here on the Cover 3 podcast and thrilled to be joined by national championship winning coach Ryan Day from Ohio State. Coach, how does that feel? I mean, does it get old at all?
No, it doesn't get old. I can tell you that.
So tell me what the time has been like ever since winning it all in Atlanta back in January.
You know, I said this before, that when you watch the interview with Scheffler before the British Open, there was a lot of things that hit home with me. You know, it's like you work your whole life and you have a vision of like winning a national championship or reaching these goals, but then quickly afterwards it's just on to the next thing. You know, and it's like, where do you find your fulfillment and your happiness? And, you know, for me, it's pouring into these people and watching them reach their dreams and goals. That's really what it comes down to. And winning games at Ohio State just allows you an opportunity to continue to do that, because you got to win every game and you got to win championships at Ohio State. That's how it goes. And so when you do that, it just allows you more opportunities to do that. And that's really what I try to focus on. Now, that being said, after the game and after winning the national championship, we got to do a lot of cool stuff.
Right.
You know, a lot of cool experiences. So that was neat. Going to the White House and playing golf at different places, some really cool restaurants, and some great trips. So that was cool, but it's on to the next thing. And this team that we have this year has really quickly turned the page, and they want to leave their own legacy. And I think the more they hear about last year's team and all the replacements that have to be made, the more they're motivated.
I will say you definitely seem happier, more relaxed this year, because you don't have that pressure, the question marks of when's the championship going to come. So that's got to be a huge relief. But how do you balance that? You were talking about this team wants to, leave their own legacy.
Yep.
It's something that's only been done a couple times in the last 30 years, is go back to back. How do you get that hunger back when last year it's, us against the world and everybody said, like, how do you recreate that motivation?
I think it's just in their DNA and in the understanding when they come to Ohio State, this is the expectation. And it's not going to change just because we won it last year. And, to go back to back is something that's never been done before. Like, so, we in the modern era in terms of Ohio State football. And so, like, we want to do that. And that's just the way our guys are wired. You're talking about guys that won multiple state championships coming up, and they're motivated individually, but they're also motivated as a team. They want to leave their own legacy behind. And, it's addicting, when you win these things. And so, but I also think for guys like Caleb and guys like Sonny, some of the offensive linemen, they want to do it their own. Like they won, but this team didn't win anything. And I think when you're a leader and you're an older guy and you see that comes with what comes with that, they want to leave their own legacy behind.
What did you learn about yourself as a coach that you can use going forward?
Every day you learn a lot. I'll start with this. About 4 years ago, I said that in 5 years, we're not going to recognize college football. And I don't think we do off the field. I think on the field we do. I think when people put on the game, it looks very similar to the way it did in the past. It's evolved. It's great. But off the field, man, it is completely different. The way that things are designed, the way you put your roster together, the way how you have to retain your roster. There's just so many things now. And now with the playoffs, it's very different. So building your team is important, how you do that, but also how you continually build as the season goes on. It's more of an NFL model. I think a guy like Matt Patricia, who joined our team this year, this is somebody that has experience in salary cap, contract construction, and then also playing in the playoffs in the NFL. And all that matters now more than it ever has before. And you would think, like, even 5 to 6 years ago, that skill set wouldn't really give you much value in college football. It does now. All those things add up. So I think we're continuing to evolve, and trying to figure out where at Ohio State we fit into the future and making sure that we're leaders, because we have been for over 100 years, and now with the salary cap and everything that's coming with that, we have to make sure that we're positioned well to make sure that we're continuing to be leaders.
You've had different types of teams in terms of the makeup of the locker room. So you put in the time to retain talent, to bring in a few new pieces. But this is, to me, unquestionably a different team. Maybe a little bit younger, maybe hungrier in that sense. How do you shift your leadership, to lead a different type of team where you don't have a Jack Sawyer, when you don't have some of those guys that have been there for so long to help lead the way on the field? How does that change for you and your staff?
I think the guys who were on the team saw great leadership last year, so they know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And I remember even talking to Lincoln and Julian during one of the bed checks. I do bed checks before the game, and I remember saying to them during the playoff run, I said, make sure every day you're taking notes on how Will is leading, what he does in the locker room, what he does in the huddle, his preparation on the field, how he handles success, how he handles loss. Will was a tremendous leader, and I tried to, with the young guys, to make sure that they were noticing what leadership looks like, and so big part of leadership is building trust, and so we talk a lot about that. We have a leadership committee. And with our off season, we try to put the guys in as many situations as we can for them to learn how to lead when conflict hits. And so that's it. But that's been like that for a while. We've tried to train leadership, but you don't know until you get them into the fire.
So wait, you do the bed check? Because I'm like going back to Florida State. We had like a low-level GA. We might be running down the hall a little bit late, pushing the envelope. I'm guessing that's not the scenario when you're checking bed check.
No, no, that's not what's going on. A little bit tighter. We try to go quick, but it's actually great because it allows me a one-on-one time. There's two guys in a room, but just to go in there and just have a quick conversation. Sometimes it's just good night. Other times it's 3 or 4 minutes. Asking about what's going on back home, talking about the game tomorrow. It's been good. I think it's something that sometimes it takes time when you're going through, I guess 45 rooms.
Beds,
right.
55 rooms.
But it's good, and I think the guys look forward to it. And during that run, I have some great memories of going in there and just talking about the game and what's going on tomorrow and the week of work, and how do you feel about the game plan, and just things like that you just can't replicate anywhere else.
You mentioned, talking to your two young quarterbacks who are battling, to see who's going to get the starting gig. How's the competition going? How are you kind of navigating that? And you don't have the luxury of having some cakewalk in the first week. You got to go against Texas. How's that competition going?
Yeah, I think that's a benefit for us to know that we got to be on point that first week, and we got to be ready to roll. And, it happened a few years ago. We played Notre Dame. Now we had CJ in year 2, so that was different. But we have a great challenge, like you said. Texas is very good. Sark does a great job. Archie Manning's a tremendous quarterback. But that has our guys' attention. They know. We just played them 2 games ago. And that was the good thing for our guys is, we've come off monster games. I mean, we had the rivalry game. We had Tennessee. We had Oregon. We had, Texas, and then we had Notre Dame, and now here we're starting the season with Texas again. I mean, these are monster games that we're playing. So the guys are used to that part of it, But for the quarterback, we have to make sure that we're putting him in competitive situations. Whoever takes care of the ball, makes good decisions, and really understands that with the type of guys that we have surrounding them, routine plays routinely and completions is what won Will Howard a national championship, and his overall toughness and leadership. Playing well on third down, playing well down in the red zone, and then in the 2-minute when it comes up, you got to be efficient. And those are all things that winning quarterback play gives you. But I'm excited about all 3 quarterbacks, and I'm excited to see them work. They've had good off seasons, but ultimately, someone's got to win the job and win the game on August 30th.
You have a guy in JJ who's pretty special. How can he get better in year 2? Like, where do you want to see more out of him? I know it's kind of a crazy question. He's dominated the playoffs.
Right there.
Well, I wouldn't say pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, he's ridiculous. Yeah,
I would say he's special, and for a lot of different reasons. He gets a lot of attention. A lot of people talk about him, but it's well deserved. I think when you get up on him and you see him physically, that's probably what's most remarkable. Is certainly his route running, the way he catches the ball, but just his overall size is something you can't prepare for. And that probably separates him. The other one that separates him is just his overall motivation. There's not one person in that building has ever had to tell him to give effort or was late for anything. I mean, he is the first guy in there, and he is going hard. And whatever that competition is, he's going to win it. And it's a great example for other guys in the team that your best players when you're hardest workers.
EA Sports College Football. You've got a little bit of familiarity with the game, right?
Yep.
You'll call plays for your son?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So your Ryan Day on the game has been labeled as the CEO type.
Okay.
It's an A+ rating.
Okay.
But when you've got the strategist, the motivator, lots of different traits can be assigned to different coaches. How do you feel about the CEO label? Is that something that you embrace? Would you say that the people did a good job as assigning that to your character?
I mean, I really like the game. I would say that people were disappointed with the likeness. They didn't think it was really good in terms of depicting who I was in terms of my looks, but that's fine. I haven't really seen much about the game. They sent me the cover the other day, but I haven't played it. Yeah, I think you have to be a CEO nowadays. Yeah, just with everything that comes with this job. I love the ball. My favorite memories of last year were during the playoff run when it was just ball, when finals were over and we could just work with these guys and go through work, have 10 days to prepare. And like I was actually like really diving into the film and the workouts, in the walkthroughs and practice and scratching stuff out and cleaning it out. Like that was my favorite part. And I think that's the favorite part for our guys as well. And so I love the X's and O's. I love that part of it. And in this profession, sometimes the reason you get a job isn't always what you need to do the next job, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so in order to move up, you got to give up, and you had to you got to give things up along the way to get there. But yeah, you have to do that nowadays more than ever because of the reason we were just talking about, all the things that happen off the field to put your roster together.
You mentioned Matt Patricia coming over to take over the defense. Brian Hartline's going to help out now with the offense.
Yep.
How much schematically different do you think you'll be this year?
Not much. When you watch what we did in the playoffs, so we had to reinvent ourselves a little bit on offense because of our offensive line. When you watch what we did after the first Oregon game, we had to reinvent ourselves a little bit that way. But it wasn't major. It was just little things that maybe if you're just watching, you would be like, so what was that different? And as you know, like it can be just a little thing, but it can be very different. And so I think it'll be the same way this year. I think we have a different cast of characters, and we have to make sure that we're putting our personnel in a position to be successful in all three phases. But, Brian and I have been working together for 9 years. Tyler Bowen will certainly have an impact on the run game. Matt Patricia is the only new face in the defensive meeting room. So we want to have continuity, and that was like even with Chip last year, one of the agreements we had is that like he wasn't just going to come in and run his offense, because when you leave, Chip, like I got to go, and make the transition. So it's the same way here. And I think Jim did a great job when he was here, but we want to carry over a lot of the Ohio State defense and what we've done. So Matt will certainly have things as the season goes on that he wants to do, but we're going to try to keep the continuity the same.
You mentioned some of the changes you implemented and how having the time, before the playoff helped. Was that something that, during the second half of the season you were thinking, man, if we can just get to the playoffs, we're going to have time to implement this a little more and unlock a new level?
I think that last year we made the decision that we were going to huddle on offense to cut down on the number of plays to play our best football at the end of the season. And I think we did play the best football at the end of the season. I think that our guys were fresh. We rolled our running backs. We had to make the adjustment on the offensive line. That was the biggest challenge that we had. It took us a couple weeks to figure that out. It sort of cost us a game, but we could talk about that for a while. But we knew that there was going to be these things that we had to figure out along the way. That the season's too long now. You're going to run into these things that hurt you. And you look at Oregon. I mean, they ran the table all the way to the end. They didn't have that adversity along the way, and so it was hard for them to run the entire table. I think it's going to be very difficult. You look in the NFL, there's really only been one team that's really done it that way. And so understanding that part of it and knowing that a loss may not just be, the end of the season nowadays is important, but then making the changes and fixing the things that went wrong is going to be what's different.
National champion, the first of the 12-team era. He is Ohio State's Ryan Day. Coach, best of luck this season, and thank you so much for spending some time with the Cover 3 podcast.
You got it.